Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Time for part 2 of the prospect ranking, and today we are talking forwards. Last year I did a top 10 center and a top 10 winger, but this year we are keeping things simple and we are only going to do a top 16 forwards all mixed up together. Just like in the last one, many players have already graduated and are not called they're eligible anymore, so players like Bedard, Fantilli, Cooley, and Carson, basically the top 4 center of last year's ranking, are all graduated, and so did Shane Wright by like 1 or 2 games, but would most definitely be high on this list. Others like Frank Nazar and Yeager dropped off this list but were in the conversation. On the wingers side, Benson, Reichel, Nyes, Eklund have also all graduated, while players like Snuggerud, Kulich, and Crystal didn't quite make the cut but were very much considered for the list. Actually, there was just so many players that I had in consideration. I'm just going to put their names on the screen because so many of those players deserve to be in the list. Players like Yurov and Savoie, Daniel Booth, McGroarty, Lambert, Easton Cowan were all very deserving, and many others, but there were only 16 places, so here goes the top 16. Oh, and also, by the way, if you could take a second or two to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. So, I know that I just said that I would cut it at 16, but there's no way I was going to make a top forward list without included Gabe Perreault, Danila Yurov, and Easton Cowan. I couldn't fit them in the top 16, but they are right there in the 4th tier with the first 4 name of this list, so I did an honorable mention list. Gabe Perreault had 60 points in 36 games for Boston College and 10 and 7 in the U20s, always being the smartest player on the ice. I also had him 10th overall in my final ranking for the 2023 draft, so obviously, if I liked him that much before the draft, he only confirmed what I thought I saw last season in the NCAA. Same goes for Yurov. I had him 9th in my 2022 ranking, right behind Matejchuk, and again, since then, and since being moved to center, he only got better and better, and while being a significant part of the KHL champion team last season. He has decent size, he's very skilled, he's fast, he plays a straightforward game that should easily translate to the North American game, plus he had 49 points in 62 games in the KHL, so there's that. The stats does meet the eye test here. And last but not least, in the honorable mention, there's Easton Cowan, who was one of the best, if not the best, and most consistent player in the entire OHL. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, and he's not the most skilled player at all, but he's often the smartest and the hardest working whenever he's on the ice. He's just out there giving everything he has on every single shift. He digs his own puck, he creates a ton of plays and advantages for his teammate. He's just excessively dangerous when he's on the ice. I don't think the path forward will be necessarily easy for him, but I'd put money on him to make it in a significant matter. So first off the list is Maverick Bourque, and just like Easton Cowan, he's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, and he's not the most skilled, but he's supremely intelligent with and without the puck. With 77 points in 71 games in the AHL and 11 in 7 games in the playoff, the stats are definitely trending in the right direction. Maybe he's not the fastest, but he plays with pace and he plays at full speed. Maybe he's not the biggest, but he works hard and he's a reliable two-way player. Maybe he's not the most skilled, but he can play in traffic, around the net, and through bumps and keep the puck. I don't think any of his skills, from his vision and his shot to his hands and his passing skills, are extraordinary, but they're all average and or a little bit of over average, but are supplemented by a quick thinking brain who consistently make good decisions with and without the puck. And at number 15, I have Dalibor Dvorsky, and Dvorsky has been a highly touted prospect for a good while now, but in his draft year in the 2nd tier league in Sweden, he was not as good as expected and he dropped a little bit, but he was always a big and heavy kid with a heavy shot and great skills. It just didn't work for him against men as a young June birthday in his draft season. The guy comes to North America to play in the OHL and boom, he scores 88 points in 52 games, including 45 goals. That was good for 4th in the entire OHL in terms of points per game. The problem with Dvorsky are his heavy feet and his inconsistent level of effort. If he brings that up a little bit, I don't think he'll ever be the driver on his line, but he can really finish up plays and bring the puck to the inside while using his hands and his body to create space. So I think he can be a significant scorer on St. Louis top 6. And at 14, there's not a lot of player from the 2023 draft class who elevated their stock just like Ritchie did last season. He was always a smart pass-first center with great skills who skates well, played a solid two-way game in a 6'2" frame, but the compete level was not always consistent, even though he always had it in him to be a play-driving center. His improved work rate and focus to make plays to the inside low in the offensive zone made him jump from 59 points in 59 games last season to 80 points in 50 games this season and 30 and 21 in the playoff. In the end, there's no doubt in my mind that in time, with his skills, his smart, and his frame, he will carve himself a top 6 role with the Avalanche. Definitely a great pick at 27 for Colorado. And at number 13, I have Tij Iginla. Some people are really high on him, like elite prospect, who have him 9th best overall prospect in the NHL, and some have him a little bit lower, like Promen, who have him at 44, but that includes prospect who aren't eligible for Calder. I find myself somewhere in the middle. I think he's a fantastic shooter and a fantastic worker with tons of skills, willing to battle for every puck, but I also think that he tries to do too much sometimes and lack the vision and sense with the puck on his stick to complement his skill set with a dynamic playmaking touch. He's a volume shooter with 319 shots last season, and often he only thinks about shooting it. But with how he played in the WGC, you could see exactly what he'll be in the NHL, a top 6 scorer with a more than solid defensive game and a forechecking game who digs for pucks, battles for ice, who can make direct plays to the net and can score any way you want it. We'll see how it goes this season, but there's a world where he takes a significant jump in next year's ranking, and there's a world where he stays the same, but I don't think there's a world where he moves back. So at number 12, I have Trevor Connelly, and I know that for most people it doesn't make sense, but I had Connelly at 10 and Iginla at 12 in my 2024 draft ranking, so it makes sense for it to stay that way. Connelly is a guy that can absolutely do it all offensively. His hockey sense is being questioned, especially after the hit at the WJC, but for me, I don't really have questions. Is it his strongest attribute? Probably not, but I think it's well in the average or above average, at least offensively, which is where he shines. I also think that Connelly doesn't get enough credit for how hard and consistently he competes, and on talent alone, he's probably a top 5 forward in the 2024 draft. He skates like the wind, he shoots hard, some of the best hands in the draft, great passing skills and vision, great compete. There's nothing he doesn't do extremely well offensively. Now the question is not if he'll make the NHL, but more in what capacity. Is he a Anthony Duclair or is he a Kyle Connor? For me, he looks like the latter. So at 11, I have Quentin Musty. I had Musty at 8 last year in my top 10 winger ranking, so 11 seems to be consistent with last year's considering both centers and wingers are being ranked on this list. I really like Musty for a long time now, and I thought he was very good value pick for San Jose when they got him at 26 since I had him at 16. But Musty is definitely not a perfect player though. He's a one-way player, and it's hard to see a world where this gets significantly better. He's also a very average skater, if not a little bit under average, but offensively he has everything. He's a mix of a power forward, a big-time shooter, and a top-notch playmaker. He has a very heavy shot even from distance. He can drop the shoulder and bring the puck to the net or stand in traffic to make plays, and he can hit the tightest seam with his pass and consistently make creative and high-end plays. Also, in terms of stats, he scored 102 points and 43 goals in 53 games, so he basically destroyed the OHL. And at number 10, I have Beckett Sennecke, and I know that in my final ranking, I had Connelly ahead of Sennecke by 1 spot, but both players were the first 2 players of my 3rd tier in the draft. Because when I built the ranking, I was very undecided about who I should put first, and because Sennecke went 3rd overall, while Connelly went 19th overall, I have Sennecke 2 spots ahead of Connelly, but still in the same tier. The production wasn't very reflective of the 3rd overall player, but I think that anyone who watched him play in the second half of the season and in the playoff knew that he deserved to go high in the draft. Personally, I was more than okay with Sennecke at 5 for the Habs if Demidov wasn't there, so I think that says enough about how good I think he is. He's big, he's fast, he has crazy hands and creative ways to use them, he can shoot, he can pass, and he plays hard. I mean, what else do you need? And at number 9, I have Cayden Lindstrom, and in this evaluation, I'm mostly ignoring the back injuries that's been following him for way too long now, but outside of that, there's really not many 6'3" center who plays as hard as he does with overflowing skills, who can really skate and shoot the puck like he does. Like, the only other one with that type of profile is already on the team who drafted him, and that's Fantilli. I don't think Lindstrom is as good as Fantilli, but that's going to be one hell of a 1-2 punch at center for Columbus, and Lindstrom can fill different roles. He's a great shooter who can beat goalies clean, but he also can be very disruptive in the low slot and score around the net. There's a future where it's going to be pretty hard to play against Columbus. And at number 8, I have Cutter Gauthier. I had him 6th last year in my top 10 center video, so 8th overall seems consistent. Gauthier had a great year in the NCAA with 65 points in 41 games, but more importantly, 38 goals in 41 games. And I think that reflects his game pretty well. He's a shoot first, ask question later type of player. He's not a great playmaker. He doesn't have great vision, so maybe center won't work for him at the NHL level, but his combination of size, skill, shot, and skating is very attractive. I don't think he plays that hard for a guy who really could be much harder to play against, but he can handle the puck in traffic and post himself in the middle third and shoot the puck off the catch. He can shield the puck, he can win battles for the puck, he can gain body positioning, he can skate with the puck, and he can anticipate pockets of space to release his thunderous wrister. It's a simple game, but he's very, very good at it. And at number 7, I have Logan Stankoven. Last year, he was behind Gauthier by 1 spot. This year, he's ahead of Gauthier by 1 spot. But what a crazy season for Stankoven. He started by dominating the AHL before he was called up with 57 points in 47 games, and then played as well as you could hope for in his first NHL season. Because of their similar size and similar limitations, he reminded me of Caulfield when he came into the league after a goal per game season in the NCAA and instantly became one of the best players on the Habs for the playoff on their way to the finals. They're really not that similar as players, but it made me think of that. But Stankoven isn't just a little ball of skills, he's also extremely competitive. It made me laugh because the Habs general manager mentioned Stankoven in his last 3 interviews or something like that when talking about needing size on the team, saying something like, if your players aren't big but they play like Stankoven, then size isn't really an issue. And he's right, he's small. He's a great skater, he's a great shooter with top-notch hockey sense and anticipation and creativity, and competes like his life depended on every single shift. And at number 6, I have Berkly Catton, who I had 5th in the draft. He's another smaller and lighter player, but who has everything to succeed. By now, everyone is well aware of his 116-point season with 54 goals carrying the team to the playoff, but it's worth re-mentioning again and again. Catton is one of the very best passers in the draft and still scored 54 goals. He has vision for days, he's super elusive, he can make his magic work in traffic, and he will perfectly drop the puck on his teammate's stick through layers of legs and stick every single time. He's competitive, he plays with pace, he's a very good skater and handler, but isn't too much of a spectacular player. He makes me think of Logan Cooley with a little bit less showmanship in his game. He has top 6 to first line potential all day long for me. And at number 5, I have Leonard, the guy who just keeps getting better and better every time I watch. Leonard finished his first NCAA season with 60 points, 31 goals in 41 games. The guy who was a hard-working puck retriever shooter in his draft year added layers after layers to his game last season. He kept all of his qualities like his shot, his skating, and placement off the puck, and added a ton of playmaking abilities with fakes and misdirection to go with it. He not only competes to win battles for the puck, he destroys his opposition, he drives the net fearlessly, he agitates, which was always a little part of his game, but now it's tenfold. He forechecks like a madman, he defends with the same intensity as he plays offense, he's just relentless. There's not a single player on this list that's harder to play against, but he's also a threat offensively every time he jumps on the ice. Leonard is going to be something special, and I don't think people other than Washington's fan base will like him very much. So at number 4, I have his teammate Will Smith, and honestly, it's a toss. I wouldn't argue with anyone who said Leonard deserved the 4th spot and Smith the 5th spot. They're different players, but they're just as good. In terms of points, Smith took it to another level with 71 points in 41 games. I think Smith might be the most spectacular player I've seen in a while outside of the Bedard of this world. I'd say he's neck and neck with Demidov in terms of jaw-dropping handling skills and passes you never saw coming. He's probably the best playmaker in this list, or one of, but he has a special creativity and vision. The only thing Smith has going against him is that he's pretty soft. The compete level is not consistent, and even on his best night, he's not spending too much energy without the puck. There's some work to be done for him to become an NHL player, but I'm confident he'll get there, and when he does, he has the talent to be one of the premier playmaker in the league and a consistent threat on the power play. So at number 3, I have my boy Ivan Demidov, and just like Will Smith, he's that type of player that keeps you on the edge of your seat every single time he jumps on the ice. He had an amazing season last year, and he started the season in the KHL, and he has been pretty good. He's just an amazing offensive opportunity creator. He takes everything that's given to him to create offense for himself and his line mate, but he can also create something out of nothing. He has some of the best hands in this list and the vision to go with it. There's really not that much negative to say about him. He has the skills, he has the size, he competes really well for pucks, he drives the middle of the ice recklessly shift after shift, he can shoot and pass the puck with the best of them, and he has hockey sense for days. The only thing you could say that isn't that great is the skating, which is fine in most cases. He's got decent speed, he's not explosive, but it's not under average by any means. He's very agile and elusive, but he's constantly using a 10-2 stride to circle the offensive zone or cut to the inside, which is very unusual. And honestly, I just have no clue how it translates to the NHL. Is he going to redefine skating by using it as much as he does, or is it going to make him more vulnerable? I just have no idea. Here at number 2, I'm going to be conservative and put Michkov, but I got to admit that until the very last minute before recording, I had him at number 1. He has Kucherov hockey genius written all over him. He's only been drafted for a year, but he's been producing at record-breaking pace for almost half a decade already in every single league and every tournament that he's played in. Obviously, the skill level is evident when you watch him play, from the shot, the handling, the playmaking, but he's not a Demidov or a Will Smith type of player. He's not a spectacular player in that way. Compared to Demidov, who's always playing at the limit of where his hands can take him, somewhere on the fence of planned controlled hockey and reactive uncontrolled hockey, Michkov is always in control. He doesn't put himself in a situation where he has to dangle the whole team to create something. Not that he couldn't do it, but he's a cerebral creator, always many steps ahead whether he has the puck or not. To give you the cheapest comparable possible, Demidov is a Kaprizov type of player. Dynamic skills, always pedal to the floor, head first type of chaotic offense. Michkov is more like a Kucherov, still dynamic skills, but more about controlled flow and methodical space creation. It might take some time for his offense to come by. I doubt he'll have a Connor Bedard type of season in his first season, but at his peak, I think Michkov will be one of the very best players in the NHL. He's a very rare type of talent. So to finish this up, I have Macklin Celebrini at number 1, and like I just said previously, I had Michkov number 1 until now basically, but Celebrini is a center. He's a significantly better athlete, and he projects to have significant impact on both sides of the puck, which can be said for Michkov. So I gave the edge to Celebrini. I also think that it's more probable for Celebrini to reach like a Sebastian Aho level of hockey offensively and defensively than it is for Michkov to reach a Kucherov level of hockey. And a Michkov at a more or less point per game pace is significantly less valuable than a Celebrini at a more or less point per game pace. So this is a little bit how I came to this conclusion. Outside of that, I don't have much to add for Celebrini. Everything has already been said just a couple months ago. But like I just said, I think a Sebastian Aho type of player is an obtainable and safe projection for Celebrini. Maybe he's even a little bit more dynamic offensively, but I don't think he's a Jack Hughes or a Bedard type of dynamic. So there you go. Here's my top 16. Let me know in the comments what you think or what you would change. As always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.